Hi, Tara. Good to see a name I recognize. All right, wonderful. Well, we'll get started since we have lots to cover. Welcome to Getting Outdoorsy with Class, going beyond the classroom walls to engage children in meaningful interactions. I am Liz Savage, our Director of Marketing Events here at Teachstone, and I am very excited to bring this session to you today. Those of you who are maybe newer to Teachstone, newer to class, here at Teachstone, our focus is helping educators around the world leverage the power of interactions to help more students thrive. And that is really exactly what today's session is about. We'll be talking about how meaningful interactions don't just happen inside a classroom set of walls, but can also come alive in outdoor spaces. And I'm confident this session will spark new ways to engage children in discovery and curiosity and connection. And I know that because this session was already presented at our Interact Summit back in 2025 in April. Everybody loved it there. And so I reached out to the team and said, is there any chance that you'd be willing to present it again? Because it resonated so strongly with our attendees. We knew we wanted to bring it to a broader audience. And so that's why we're here today. And speaking of Interact, we are very thrilled to announce that we will be in in Chicago for Interact this April. And so in a moment, I'll put in the chat some more information about our Interact Summit. We have opened our call for proposals. And so if you would like to present a session of your own at our Interact Summit, like this one, or if you're inspired afterward, we would love to hear what you want to bring to our summit. And hopefully we'll see you all in Chicago in April. So very quickly, just some housekeeping. We are recording the session. Anyone that has to drop off early, you won't miss a thing. We'll send the recording out via email tomorrow. In that email, you'll get any handouts, the slides, anything that's mentioned today will be linked in that email. And you can share that with anyone who wasn't able to attend. It's open to all. And as we're going today, I'll keep an eye on both the webinar chat and the Q&A. And so if you have questions for the team that you want to save for the end, we'll come back together about 10 minutes left and answer any questions that you might have. So feel free to use that Q&A box. And if you want to chat into the whole group during the webinar, you can use the webinar chat box. And I think that's it. So we are very lucky to be joined by the experts from the Pennsylvania Key. We have Leah and Beth. They're both program quality assessors. They'll guide us through today's session on nature-based play and outdoor interactions. So I'll hand it off to them.
Great, thanks, Liz. So welcome to Getting Outdoorsy with Class. It's going beyond the classroom walls to engage children in meaningful interactions. As Liz said, I'm Beth Simon, and I'm presenting with my coworker, Leah Zabari, and we are both program quality assessors in Pennsylvania and Teachstone certified class assessors for all the age levels. In Pennsylvania, our role is to support our QRIS system, which is called Keystone Stars. And we help programs choose assessment tools that are right for them. We coach programs on developmentally appropriate practices, and we collaborate with them to set future continuous quality improvement goals, CQI goals, and of course, we conduct assessments too. So during the webinar tonight, we're going to be working through 4 objectives. We welcome you to interact and ask questions like Liz mentioned in the Q&A and in the chat. So first of all, we're going to explore how fostering meaningful interactions outdoors expands children's curiosity and active play. We will recognize barriers to outdoor learning, and finally, we will reflect on how class interactions can be used in nature-based learning environments. I'm going to let Leah tell you her why, and then I'll tell you my why.
Hi, everybody. I'm Leah, and my why is really just based off my love of all things outdoor. I'm a huge backpacker and hiker, and I love all the water sports, so I do so much outside. And it just kind of is a beautiful thing that I'm in early education and get to blend my passion for outdoors with education and working with teachers and children on getting them outside more. And really recently, my love for the outdoors and education has been evolving into um, this new passion of just advocacy for getting kids outside as early and as young as possible, and really advocating for teachers to do the same. We're going to be talking about a lot of the benefits, but I'm just realizing, there's so many benefits, and I'm just excited to share some of those with you today. So that's my why.
So I was a late bloomer, I guess, appreciating nature. I grew up in um, rural central Pennsylvania, and we have mountains. I know if you're in Colorado, you don't think I have mountains, but we have mountains. And I grew up with a river literally running through my backyard, and I just could not get out of there fast enough. I didn't want to experience it. I didn't want to go hiking. I didn't want to be in the woods. It was my 30th birthday and I got into hiking and biking and I decided I would do this trail race, this 25K. I don't even know that I knew what a 25K was at the time I signed up for it. So I got into that and I just haven't quit since. So I found that there's just a joy that you feel in nature and it just really has a calming presence, gives me a calming presence, which I need. So I haven't quit being outdoors ever since. So that's our why. We want you to start thinking about what your why might be. So our question to you is, what would you do if you could spend the whole day outside? We want you to think about where you'd go, what would you do, who would you spend that day with, and why? And if you're still like the younger me and don't really enjoy being outdoors in nature, think about what you would do with your children. If you had the opportunity to be outdoors all day with your children in your classroom, where would you go? What would you do? Think ideally what you would do. If you want to put some of those thoughts in the chat, we can get back to them later. But just think about what would you do if you could spend the day outside?
I'm seeing a lot of beaches being posted, being at the beach.
And we're going to talk about why. So our little theory is when you know your why, you'll know your way. It's catchy, and you might be thinking, "Yep." But this quote says a lot, doesn't it? When you know your purpose, you know your motivation, and that can empower you to take action and make decisions toward achieving your goals. When you fully consider your why, it'll help you gain a new perspective, navigate challenges or speed bumps along the way, and get creative to be successful. I mean, this applies to our topic today, but you might find yourself applying it to other facets of your life as well. What do you feel strongly about? That's your why. How can I make it happen? And that's going to be your way. So, if you believe children need stronger connections to nature, how can you step outside your traditional methods to make it happen? So, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, some benefits of outdoor play. We're really just going to be running down a little list because of our time constraints, but physically, what skills are being developed with children outdoors? They're supporting gross motor skills like balance and coordination. It provides freedom of movement. There's also an increase in illness prevention or recovery. Cognitively, how does being outdoor and outdoor play impact the brain? It engages the senses. It encourages imaginary play, creative thinking. It helps to improve concentration. Is there social emotional growth in children? When we get children out of traditional classrooms and out from behind screens, we see growth in problem-solving skills, peer interactions, and the ability to better handle stress. And how do you feel when you're outdoors? Do you feel a connection to something bigger than you? Do you feel calm and relaxed? Again, when you thought of where you were going to go all day, did a lot of you say the beach, maybe the lake, camping, to the woods? This supports that thought that nature can be a break from our hectic schedules. And the result is that nature is necessary for healthy development. So nature-based learning is a teaching method that involves learning in natural settings or in environments with natural elements. Nature-based learning is often hands-on, active, and it encourages exploration and discovery. It can take place in a variety of settings, playgrounds, parks, forests, even under that tree in the front yard of your school. It can be interdisciplinary with children learning about a variety of subjects. Perhaps they're painting with feathers, counting with acorns, planting a garden. So the benefits of nature-based learning kind of build on those of outdoor play with a little bit of added intentionality that deepens the impact. Nature-based learning supports respect for nature and environmental stewardship, improving the physical health, physical skills, coordination, motor skills, illness prevention with more exposure to vitamin D, reducing stress, anxiety, and a reduction in attention challenges, and improving social skills, self-discipline, and overall academic performance. So we've discussed what nature-based learning is and some of its benefits, but how can you take learning outside with class? Outdoor gross motor experiences are incredibly beneficial for children in numerous ways. I don't think we can argue about that. We're not suggesting that you limit gross motor activities, but rather we're encouraging you to consider integrating additional learning opportunities during outdoor play as an option. Whether that's adding a learning component to your already scheduled gross motor activities, talking about how fast the car goes down the slide versus the truck, or how high the ball is bouncing, or creating designated times for outdoor learning, we want to explore how all aspects of learning like math, art, literacy, and of course science can take place outdoors. What would it look like if you had an outdoor time that wasn't designated as gross motor? How would you intentionally facilitate learning experiences in an outdoor space other than your classroom? We want you to begin to think about the outdoors as an extension of your typical learning space and how you can use what nature's provided for children's learning by using intentional interactions, building relationships and deep connections, and including meaningful language and conversations. As we continue, think about how these experiences can relate to class interactions. Can you envision ways to incorporate meaningful, supportive interactions during outdoor activities? Keep this in mind as we move forward, and we'll have time later on to discuss that a little bit more in depth. This is just a quote that Leah and I found from Penny Whitehouse. She's on a popular blog called Mother Natured. I just wanted to have you read this to yourself as we prepare for the next steps. So we know outdoor play is important, but what makes it so powerful? In her book, Balanced and Barefoot, Angela Hanscom points to three key factors that really stand out. And we're going to walk through each of these three key factors to child development together. The first key factor, the outdoors offers a perfectly balanced sensory experience. A natural integration of our senses leads to optimal brain and body performance. When you're in a calm but alert state, you're better able to process the sensory information around you and start to organize what you hear, feel, see, bringing together all of those puzzle pieces to form an accurate picture of the world around you. Nature doesn't bombard children with too much sensory information at once, which can create a sense of chaos and confusion. So listening to that first key factor, what ages would benefit from a balanced sensory experiences? All ages, right? Even us adults. Can you think of ways that having a balanced sensory experience could spark meaningful interactions that align with class? The second key factor is the outdoors inspires the mind. So there are no expectations. Children are forced to use their imagination to see how the stick, a rock, or a pine cone is going to become part of their play. The outdoors challenges children to think in new ways, and there's no pressure. When engaging in active free play, children can play with others or not, make up their own rules, or follow someone else's. They can be rough and tumble, or quiet and calm and at peace. There's no pressure or goal to achieve, no boxes to check, no pass or fail. So imagine the children you work with had no limits, no pressure, only endless possibilities. How might they thrive? Thinking about class, which specific areas could we strengthen by sparking children's curiosity and imagination? And the outdoors is an ideal setting for evaluating risks and accepting challenges. When children overcome obstacles, they learn that they can be successful if they keep trying, even in the face of difficulty. Persistence builds confidence. When playing outdoors, children get to determine when they are ready to take risks and even control how much risk they're willing to take. As they're attempting to walk on the log to balance, do they ask for your hand the first time across? Maybe the next time they say, hey, I can do this on my own. Or does it take a few times holding their hand before they feel confident in taking that risk on their own? When playing outdoors, children quickly learn that they can't control the outcomes of their play. For instance, the children set out to collect feathers to paint with, but of course today they don't find any. They adapt by collecting acorn caps, leaves, some dandelions, sticks that they're going to use for painting instead. So after hearing about the key factors from Balanced and Barefoot, um, did anything surprise you, or can we all agree that these skills are what we want for all children, regardless of age, to strengthen and to have success? Any aha moments that you felt that you heard or saw? Feel free to jot them down or add them to the chat. So in the previous slides, we talked about how and what children gain from nature-based play experiences. Even when active play is occurring outdoors, you can encourage children to stop and listen. What do they hear? Is that a woodpecker in the distance? Do you hear a plane flying overhead? What do you think that noise is? Where did it come from? Can you see it? So we want you to take a moment to think about a meaningful interaction you've had with a child that led to a deep, rich learning experience. Are you able to connect that experience to class and even possibly break it down to think about the specific concepts your interactions touched on? I'm going to just pause for a second, and if there's anything that you would like to add to the chat or add to the Q&A, feel free. So the development of critical thinking skills relies on background knowledge and language development, both of which grow when children have frequent, developmentally appropriate opportunities to interact with their environment. These are the key steps to get you started. So we're going to set the stage, provide the tools for outdoor exploration, encourage peer interactions, make learning visible, and make connections to children's literature. And as you can see on the bottom of the slide, this came from a resource called Big Questions for Young Minds. It's one that Leah and I are big proponents of. We love that book and we give it to everybody when we can. So we're going to take a look at each of these steps a little bit more in detail. So set the stage for learning opportunities. For example, we're going to set the intention for the children to find a bug outside, to investigate and develop conversations around what they find. In setting the stage, you'd consider creating an environment that encourages exploration and curiosity. We want to know, what does the children already know about bugs? And allow children to take the lead and be active participants in their learning, make their own choices, And we want to pay attention to what children are curious about that's going to lead to those more meaningful, in-depth, and rich conversations. By drawing on your knowledge of the child as well as on your knowledge of how children learn, you can extend the children's learning in the moment. For the second step, we're going to provide those tools for outdoor exploration. How are children going to find bugs? You may ask them, where do you think the bugs will be? Are they going to be under a log? Are they going to be in the grass? Are they going to be close to the climber? We usually see a lot of bugs outside. Where do we normally find bugs? So these are some questions you can ask them when you're setting the stage and providing those tools. We're also going to equip them with materials and resources for hands-on learning outside. When they have the tools in their hands, it excites them. So we're going to provide things like magnifying glasses, bug nets or jars, tweezers, clipboards, binoculars, blankets for maybe some sitting down and thinking about what they saw and investigating. Um, Now, if you don't have these particular materials, there's always ways we can create things if we're on a budget. So you can use paper towel rolls for pretend binoculars. You can use a piece of cardboard and some paper with a binder clip, and that can be a clipboard. Chopsticks can make great tweezers as well. Concrete tools are going to empower children to become serious about their study and their exploration.
All right, and I did see in the chat that some people were asking about the book, so it is referenced down below on the slide. Megan put it in the chat box, and we have a resource slide at the very end that you can look at and take a picture of that mentions all the resources that we're mentioning during this presentation today. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that. So part of getting started is encouraging peer interactions. You want to ask yourself, how are you going to do that outside? Well, first you're going to be a model, and you're going to foster collaboration and discussions among children to stimulate new ideas and perspectives. But again, you also want to have a balance between involvement with children and just sitting back and listening and observing to see what their peer interactions are. You're also going to give children opportunities to interact with peers without adult interruption. And remember that children's interactions with each other are as important as their interactions with adults. Pair children up to go on a bug hunt using the tools provided. That's just one example. Another thing is to make learning visible. So providing children with clipboards or notebooks and crayons and pencils to draw and record what they find when they're outside. You can show children's progress and discoveries through displays, artwork, or shared conversations. So taking inside things that you find outside and displaying them on your walls or in your science or math center. And then having conversations about them too is really important for that follow-up. Displaying photos and drawings so children can revisit their learning is another great way. And then also using nature journals with children to observe and track what they see and experience outside over a period of time. It's also important to make connections to children's literature. You want to use books and online resources to help children find answers to their questions. Use photos or realistic illustrations that intrigue them and can lead to richer conversations. Since resources can sometimes be lengthy and filled with technical language, you want to use things that have more photos in them that will pique their interest. Also have some factual books on bugs. Do internet research to further their investigation. You can create a bug aquarium in the Science Center where bugs can temporarily be kept for further examination. But it's important to remember that the development of critical thinking skills depends upon background knowledge and language development, which are fostered when children have frequent, developmentally appropriate interactions with their environment, materials, adults, and peers. Teachers play a key role in this process by being intentional in their interactions, basing decisions on principles that make learning meaningful. Learning becomes more impactful when it connects to a child's prior experiences or interests. This approach is reflected in the pre-K through third class, which concept development dimension, so some of you might know that, and the toddler class facilitation and learning development dimension, and probably some other ones too. So you can brainstorm and think what dimensions and domains would fit into those. But by considering what is engaging to a child, teachers can make learning more relevant and effective. And then we go on to curiosity and active play. Curiosity is one of my favorite things. And curiosity-based questions can help us to identify how we want to support children and the kind of teachers we want to be in the process. So we talked a little bit about what class says about outdoor play. What does it say about outdoor play? Is there enough said on it? I don't know. As observers, in infant toddler, we can assess when we're outside on the playground and observe outdoor play. But in preschool, we don't really assess that unless there's a structured activity. But does that mean that we really can't be out there and listening to interactions or having interactions with children? Definitely not, right? So, as assessors, we often see this is kind of free play for the kids, but it's also kind of a downtime for teachers. And we really want to try to get away from that because there's so much learning that can occur on the outdoor playground or play area. So the first thing we want to talk about here is modeling curiosity. We want to lead by example by asking questions, solving problems, and sharing your thought process. You can ask children questions like, I wonder what would happen if, or how do you think that got there? It's okay to not have all the answers, and it's okay to be wrong too. It just is another way of showing kids that we're people too, and we're all learning. Everyone's on a learning journey, no matter how old you are. We also want to encourage exploration. So provide opportunities for children to explore and experiment with new materials. For example, you can go on a scavenger hunt, build a snowman in the winter, or create art using natural materials. The third one is focus on questions. Instead of starting with the answer, ask interesting questions that spark new ideas. I wonder what would happen if, or how do you know? Tell me more about that. And embrace curiosity is the fourth one. Encourage children's natural curiosity and promote open-ended questions that stimulate critical thinking. Why do you think the tree's leaves change color in the fall? Using encouragement and affirmation to encourage children to persist by saying things like, I like the way you think. And I just want to say it's okay to not have the answers to their questions. Be a model for curiosity yourself. So you can say, wow, that's a really great question. I wonder how we can find the answer to that together. And then that brings that learning inside too, because then you might have to do some research with some books that you have in the classroom or do some research on the computer. But again, it's okay to embrace the things that we're all curious about and not have the answers right away. So when we're getting outside and we're preparing to go outside, we want to provide some tools. So what's in your bag? I mentioned previously, and Beth too, that we're both hikers. And being a wilderness first responder, my first thing goes to the 10 essentials that I have to have when I'm out backpacking. And that's, you have to have navigation, you have to have a headlamp, definitely a first aid kit, sun protection, shelter, knife, extra food, extra clothes. Sometimes I might overpack just because I just want to be over prepared. But so when we have those 10 essentials when we're outside in the outdoor environment, but as teachers and we're heading outdoors with our kids, what kind of essentials would you put in your backpack so that you're prepared for more interactions outside? And you can put those things in the chat box if you think about them. And then why would you pack those things? And some examples of that would be, materials like the binoculars and magnifying glasses, bug bags. I see lots coming in, bug catchers. There's also question cards, those flip question cards that Teachtone gives out, or you can purchase on the website. Those are really great prompts that you can use. Bird books, somebody put in the chat box. That's excellent. Any of the field guides, so that when the kids see a bird flying above, you're not just saying, "Oh, it's a bird." Well, they already know it's a bird, but then you can have something to identify it with. Oh, that actually looks like a hawk. And get out your field guide and say, wow, I see that the hawk has brown wings like the one that we're looking at in the field guide. So really being able to interact in ways like that will enhance those interactions. I see lots of other things in the chat box coming in. So those are all great things. Clipboards and cameras. You want to be able to document what the kids are seeing. And like I said in the beginning, document things over seasonal changes and weather patterns. Have a thermometer outside, have, um, can't remember the name off the top of my head, but the weather vane, you can have those outside so that you can do the weather chart outside instead of inside in a boring circle time. Do the learning outside and get them hands-on experiences with that. And I could go on a whole nother, I can just keep going on because I'm so passionate about it, but I think you guys are too, so I'm super excited. But brainstorm before you go out. Make sure you have things prepared so that you don't have to run inside, leave the kids, or they won't have anything to do when you're out there. So just make sure that you're prepared. And the last thing I'll say about this is a lot of us in our science center have those bugs that are in acrylic cases that are encased in those acrylic things. Take them outside and see if the kids can find the real live ones and match them up with the ones that are already encased, so that they can bring that learning inside and outside and make a real connection and maybe feel that bug that they have that's captured in the science center. So there's so many ideas out there that I get so passionate about, and I'm so off topic, but let's keep going. Sorry, Beth.
Okay.
But step up your questioning techniques. So we're going to dive into these questions because, we're all about interactions and we're all about going above the what color is that? What shape is that we hear all the time. And that's great when you're at that developmental level. So if you're asking a 2-year-old who doesn't know colors or shapes yet, those are great questions to start off with. But if you're working with preschoolers or school agers, you can go beyond that. And so the rest of this presentation is really going beyond those basic questions. So we're taking the step up your questioning technique from another book that's called Big Questions for Young Minds. And it's another great book that we use a lot. So I think beyond those tools and materials, we have to think of our biggest essential for outdoor learning is our questions. So we're going to go over this concept from the book, and it's based off Bloom's taxonomy concept. So these steps will help you visualize what using high-level questions with young children looks like based on that model. So at each successive level, the questions become more difficult and require deeper thinking from children. Remember that children are not necessarily at one step or another in their development. Rather, their level of thinking shifts as they are exposed to new experiences and concepts and trying out ideas. So, for example, a 4-year-old may be able to experience and infer on a topic she has not a lot of experience with, but when exploring a topic that's new to her, she may spend a lot of time gaining basic facts and understanding and applying what she learned. So there's that balance between finding those questions that are developmentally appropriate and moving beyond that and above that. So the first example here is remember. So this is the first step. And this comes from that book, Big Questions for Young Minds. And there's an example about a teacher, Mr. Joe, who always takes his children outside to visit their tree that they named Todd. So these examples come from that little story. And so his first question is, the first level is you want to have them remember. So you're asking, what animals did we see in the park? And then you're going to step it up a little bit more. And you're going to ask, why is it important to put birdseed in the feeders during the winter? So I think that's a really great question. Sometimes as adults, I don't know if I really know the answer to that. And again, if you don't know the answer, that's a great way to bridge that and with your curiosity and the child's curiosity. So the third step then is to apply it. So what can you do with your body to make yourself look like Todd, our oak tree? And then the fourth step is to analyze. Let's look at the picture of our visit with Todd from last week and a picture of him from this morning. What is different? And this is where, if you have a nature journal or you have a chart where you're charting things or even photos of the tree and the surrounding area, you can document those changes and have the kids visualize those changes too. And then the fifth step is evaluate. So which do you think is the oldest tree and why? And then the last step is to create. So this is where they really get a good hands-on activity and feeling for what they've been learning. And an example of that would be, I've added Nuts for You by Lois Ellert to the block area, along with tree blocks, plastic squirrels, and acorns. What kinds of constructions will you create with these materials? So you do see how these questions go beyond those basic questions and really get that curiosity forming in the children's brain. It's almost like a hit of dopamine, like when you have this dopamine and like the curiosity just keeps coming and coming and you're building on your questions and they're just getting more and more great and more creative and allowing for the children to really expand their horizons. So those are some techniques, and I think Beth dropped that into the chat box as well.
Yep, that's what I was just gonna say.
Good. So we're gonna do sort of like a virtual, I think we're gonna walk you through it because of time. But at the Interact conference, we did have like a group discussion about it. And we can kind of have that here. So put your answers to some of these or your ideas in the chat box. But we're gonna walk through it and see how many steps you can go up and how many steps you can reach through that process. So using the picture here, I love this picture. See how many steps we can climb with our questioning skills. So the first one is remember. And you can start dropping things from each step in the chat box if you want to. And don't be afraid to answer incorrectly or whatever. I have the examples here, so I'm just gonna talk them through, and then you guys just keep putting them in the chat box too. So an example of this based on this picture for remember is, what insect did you see on the log outside on our playground? Yeah, somebody said, what insects did we see? At the understand level, when you saw the bug on the log, you told me it had legs. What else did the bug have? What color is the log? Pam said in the chat. Good. Green fuzzy stuff before. Awesome. I love all these things coming in. At the third step, we have apply. Do you remember how the bug moved? Can you show me with your body? This one's a fun one, especially if it's a caterpillar, to see the kids crawling around on their bellies. The fourth step is analyze. Let's look at our book about caterpillars. Can you find a picture that looks like the caterpillar we saw outside? And the fifth step is evaluate. I wonder if any other insect crawls and moves like the caterpillar you saw. Do you see how that question can put the kids and you down a rabbit hole of looking and exploring for more things and researching and finding pictures? Like all these questions, the more you get the skill of questioning and stepping up the questions, the more the world is just going to open up to you and the kids. And it's amazing. This is so exciting. And then the last one is create. What will you like to draw or write in your nature discovery book about the caterpillar you found outside? So hopefully you got kind of an idea of how to expand and step up those questioning skills. And again, you have the handout in the chat box. If not, I think there's a way at the end to get it to you later. But we're talking about all this nature stuff, and we have this beautiful picture of kids outside with a stump. But what happens if you don't have access to that? So the next part of this is talking about barriers. There are some barriers you may face. I do a lot of assessments in the city of Philadelphia, and some of these pictures look really familiar to me. I don't know if you as participants have playgrounds like this or don't even have a playground structure. Maybe they have just a sidewalk. I've been to programs where they don't have a green space within miles of their program, but they have access to a sidewalk that they can walk on. So what barriers may you face? Of course, ideally, children can play and roam around in safe outdoor spaces for extended periods of time. But again, it's not always the case because not all early childhood environments can offer those advantages. So do you face any barriers for outdoor learning? And feel free to put those in the chat. What barriers do you face when you think of how to implement outdoor learning in your program? And there could be lots of barriers. Again, like no green spaces, an unsafe outdoor space, children's behavior. You might have children that may be autistic and are runners, and you don't have a fenced-in area. So that's a barrier. You don't have enough staff. Weather. I noticed some of you are from out west. I'm sure the weather out there in the winter, and maybe now, I don't know, depending on where you're from, the weather is definitely a huge barrier. And your schedule, you might just not think you might not have enough time. So the question really is, are these barriers within your control? And if the barriers are within your control, what can you do to remove them? Now, if the barriers are outside of your control, what's next? What's your next plan of action? How many of you teach in the city? Again, do you have access to green spaces, or does your playground look like what you see in the pictures? Is it a challenge for you? Why or why not? These are all really great questions to ask yourself and ask your admin team and ask your programs. Will you accept and embrace this challenge, or will you continue with your current practices? Here's the biggest question though. Can you still engage with children with high-level questioning, no matter what barrier you face? Can you still bring a bag of your 6 essentials outside with you? That's the biggest question. Bring up the next quote. When you're facing barriers, keep this quote from Matisse in mind. It suggests that beauty, opportunities, and positive aspects of life are always available for those who are open to seeing them. It's a reminder that positivity and beauty exist around us, but it requires a mindset or perspective to recognize and appreciate them. There are always flowers for those who want to see them. And what if you don't have access to an outdoor environment? What can you do to expose children to nature-based play? If you don't have an outdoor space, no problem. We have the answers for you. We have it all. No. We use in PA, we also use a program observation instrument called Inspiring Spaces for Young Children, or the ROSI, which is the rating scale. And this is rating the indoor environment, and it gives really great suggestions on what you could do in your inside environment, especially if you don't have an outdoor space. So the first thing is you want to be more intentional with nature indoors. Hanging a bird feeder inside the classroom window, placing a weather watch station next to a window, adding snow to the sensory table, sticks, pine cones in the block center. Just be careful about those acorns, and if you have children with nut allergies, acorns are a nut, so just be aware of that. And choking hazards, so just beware of safety comes first, remember. Try to replace manufactured things for natural things instead. You can have authentic instead of cartoon-like things like adding books that depict real animals, displaying pictures of animals and nature scenes in a realistic way. You definitely want to avoid stereotypes, and you want to represent local nature, so local to you nature. So remember, I said in the beginning, if it doesn't resonate with the child, if the child has no experience, real life experience with it, that learning isn't really going to stick with them. So you want to have things that are relevant to them. So if you are in a city, you might not necessarily, yes, it's great to expose them to everything, but in the city, they might not have an idea of what like an oak tree looks like. So find something in their vicinity where they're walking to school that has a tree that they are familiar with. So that's what I mean by representing nature locally. And nature could be anything too. It's really how you define it. So especially if you're in the city or you're in an urban setting, the city skyscrapes might be your nature. So make sure you're having pictures and including those things in the child space. Absolutely have diversity of people having positive outdoor experiences, and connect indoor to outdoors, reading books about clouds and then go outside and observe them. Do your weather chart outside. Have children draw the clouds and talk about the shapes they see in those clouds. So there's lots of things that you can do inside. And take advantage of science and math learning. Set up a science area with tools to investigate. You know, fall's coming. Everyone loves fall. So you have those pumpkins, the leaves, all kinds of things. In the winter, icicles. So lots of things to do. Some of the pictures on the screen here show some ideas too. So what is your dream? This is where we get to dream and have this dream state. Some of these questions came up when I was a preschool teacher and a director. If I had a dream, could I rearrange my daily schedule? What would that look like? Could you go outside in the early morning instead of later in the day, or vice versa? Is there time in the schedule to go outside each day, or maybe 2 times a day? Do you want or need to learn more about nature-based play? If so, just Google it. There's so many things, or contact Beth or I. We have lots of resources that we can give to you on nature-based play. I have really good books that I'm reading right now on nature-based play. And some are in the resource section when we get to that slide. And then what's your plan? What kinds of class language can we add? And who will work with you on the plan and implementing it? So making sure that you have a team that you could go to that could, you can bounce your ideas off of, and hopefully you have some advocates and support for changing some things in your program. But back to class language, what can you add? Again, it's okay to have pre-written prompts as a starting place and have questions posted around the classroom or question cards that you can take outside. And then if you're stuck, if you're a teacher and you're stuck on how can I step up my questioning game, you have prompts right away that you can just flip through. It's not a cheat card, it's a help card. And there's no shame in that at all. So I think that would be a great way for class language. And then your connection to class. We want to return to our how. Outdoor spaces open the door to a wide, rich variety of inquiry and natural opportunities for exploration and critical thinking. There are unique opportunities to set the stage for ongoing learning and connecting prior knowledge to new experiences. Building this foundation increases children's opportunities for growth in physical, cognitive, and language skills in a developmentally appropriate manner with the environment, materials, teachers, and each other. All of these things come together in a nice class package when your teachers or you are intentional about creating learning opportunities in the context of an outdoor space. We're going to end with some classy ideas. So using descriptive language for senses. What does the sand feel like? Is it rough, soft, smooth? Reflecting on previous activities. Do these birds look like the ones we saw at the feeder the other day? Using words to describe emotions. How did you feel when you got caught in the rain? And then, of course, have a bag, tote, or crate ready when you're headed outdoors. And use sign language or children's home language to describe what they are experiencing. The water is warm on your hands. El agua está tibia en las manos. Forgive my Spanish, I am not a Spanish speaker. Sorry if I totally botched that. But again, it's important to have that diversity and have some language and cultural acknowledgement in there as well. And then we end with a challenge for all of you. Can you commit to 1 hour each week to outdoor learning? And that might sound a lot, but can you do it? By committing to this cause, we can cultivate a culture of innovation and creative problem solving, where every challenge becomes an opportunity for growth. Just think that by making this commitment, we could help to grow a culture of creative thinkers and problem solvers. And it's all about the journey, not the destination. Always moving. Sometimes you might get stuck, but keep moving. Sometimes it's okay to stop, reflect, and start again. Sometimes even deciding on going in a new direction. Be open to new ideas, to the possibility that it won't work, and then taking risks. And be prepared. Know your kids, know your families, and know your staff. Set goals to start, to stop, revise, and start again. And here is the resource page. So if you want to take a screenshot of it, or ask a question about it, feel free. But thank you so, so much for joining this presentation today. As you can tell, Beth and I are so passionate about outdoor learning and all things nature-based. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat box. And I think Liz is going to come back on and end our session for us. But thank you again.
Yeah, thank you both so much. There's so many thank yous in the chat. That was wonderful. We do have a few more minutes, and so if anyone has questions, please feel free to use that Q&A. One question I had, so my son, who's now 10, was a kindergartner during COVID, and we enrolled him in an outdoor kindergarten classroom. It both solved for the COVID challenges and was truly his favorite year of school. He was incredible. And he was outside, rain, snow, anything, and learned more than I could have imagined him learning in a regular kindergarten program, probably. But I think there's a lot of family sort of pushback or hesitation of, are you really learning if you're just playing outside? And I was curious if you two have thoughts of sort of how families typically respond, or how program leaders sort of position a move to more outdoor learning, if there's any sort of reservations around that.
Sure. I think I've heard reservations, especially in urban settings, where even the adults and the parents and the caregivers, they don't have experiences with outdoor anything. They don't go on nature walks. They don't do anything because that wasn't their experience growing up. So it's really, if you're going to either send your child to a nature-based learning or start a program that's nature-based or incorporate it into what you're already doing, being open and having that communication and setting policies and handbooks, and giving parents resources on the benefits. I think starting with the benefits of outdoor play and the importance of it, and give them straight up examples of the learning that's taking place while the kids are outside is really your starting point and where you're going to get the parents involved. And then making those family connections, having a parents' night or have them come during the day and say, here's what we do. Make sure you're prepared, go for walks. And if you're working with families that are underserved or low income, having those resources available to them as well. Having a box of donations of clothing appropriate for the weather, having simple things, thrift stores are amazing places to find all kinds of things that you can use, and just being prepared to have those things for families that can't afford them or don't have access to them, I think is a really good starting point. And then just, pictures go a long way too. You can always get a parent involved more and more excited with pictures of their kids. So I think parents are more likely to jump on board with what's going on when you have pictures and real life experiences. So I hope that answered it a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Well, for those of you who are chatting in, there are some questions around accessing all the wonderful resources that were mentioned. Again, we will send an email to everyone that registered. It doesn't matter when you joined or if you joined. Everyone will get an email tomorrow that will have the recording of this. We'll have links to the handout that was put in the chat earlier. And so for those of you who weren't able to get the screenshot of the resource page, you'll have that. You'll get the those great higher order thinking questions. A couple people asked about certificates of attendance. There will also be one on that page tomorrow if you need a certificate to show that you attended. Make sure we answered all of these questions. And for additional resources, we would love for you to join our class learning community. Go to community.teachstone.com if you want to talk to other people about how they're doing this in their program or look for ideas. I know there were a couple of great questions around the impact this has on class observers, and happy to share some more language around that as well. The manual does talk about observing outdoors as long as it isn't sort of recess or just free play. And yeah, if you have other questions, we'd love to see them in our class community. And you don't need to leave your name or any sort of registry number. Let's see, maybe we have time for this last question from Jennifer. How do you maintain an outdoor learning atmosphere and still provide testing results and data required for state funding? That's a big one with 1 minute left.
Oh boy.
I mean, we can go over a minute too. Do you have thoughts on balancing that?
My quick answer to that is documentation. Having a journal that's documenting, because there's a lot you can document as you're observing kids outside, documenting their growth patterns with language and math and science. That would be my quick answer. Beth, I don't know if you have any other things.
I was gonna give up. Surrendered on that question. I'm like, I don't think we have even a minute isn't gonna cover that.
I think documentation, I mean, hopefully, yeah, if the learning is still happening indoor or outdoor, the testing results will show. The certificates will be on the landing page that you get access to tomorrow. So everyone will have everything all on the same page. We'll have the recording, the handout, certificate, everything will be right there. All right. Well, thank you, everyone who attended, and thank you, Leah and Beth, so much.
Thanks for having us.
We certainly enjoyed learning from you. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.